I'm a Metro columnist, so I don't have to be impartial. I don't have to, I'm a columnist, so I bring my biases with me. And I love that. It's very freeing. So I don't have to worry about that. I get to voice my opinion and tell it like it is. And that clip that you showed was very triggering. And the one thing I kept thinking about is there should be more people standing up and doing that besides Jenice. Yes, there are other people like Kristen Welker, but I try to think of who else besides Kristen Welker and Jenice are in that White House pool. There are not enough of us there.
Yeah, well, I am a journalist, so I don't do columns like Jenice. Sometimes I'm jealous. But I have to play it straight for the most part. And Jenice and I have actually had conversations about this. I'm not allowed to express my opinion, and I've actually been told that we need to be careful about what we share on social media and things like that. So a lot of times I will not say how I feel about any subject. Instead, what I try to do is focus on the facts. And I try to give context and meaning to what things mean to the people that I know look at the work that I produce. And ironically, I don't work for, quote, Black media per se. Instead, I'm a Black journalist in a mainstream newsroom. And so I feel like my eyes are to cover, my mom always told me, use your power to help your people. So I do a lot of stories about Black people and people of color, people who are underserved, like the LGBTQ community, the disabled community, because a lot of times we ignore telling those stories. And so I focus on that, but I focus on the facts. I try to keep my opinions out, but believe it or not, people feel the way I do sometimes. And so those quotes definitely get included in a story, but my job is to kind of play it straight and let you all be the judge and decider. But we need Jenice saying something, because I tell you, I've read her columns many a times and I just hit share. I don't say anything else.
Thank you for that.
I don't say nothing else.
Yep. I appreciate that.
Enough said, yeah.
So have you experienced a challenge like that? Has someone actually challenged you? Maybe even in your earlier years, maybe you've had to come up against this.
I get challenged every day.
Give me an example of that. What does that look like?
Read some of the emails I got in my inbox today. Nasty, horrible emails. But they weren't as bad as they were a week ago when I wrote about Breonna Taylor and asked our readers to put themselves in the shoes of this young Black woman who was awakened in her sleep and doesn't know what's going on, and runs out into the hallway and winds up with 5 bullets in her body. And oh my gosh, you're lying. They said things like, you're lying. I'm like, really? You think I would sit here and make up a bunch of lies and put them in the paper and get away with it? It's terrible. To some people, you will never be good enough. But I understand why that is. And I don't worry about them. So there's no trying to prove anything to anybody for me anymore. Wouldn't you say the same thing, Cherri?
I would say the same thing. I mean, I think my biggest issue was always trying to say, and Jenice, you can probably comment on this, where you think something is a story, but you're told that's not a real story. That doesn't really happen. And a lot of times, people don't understand what happens in different communities. Like, people will tell me all sorts of things. And I've had some wild stories, y'all. I'm talking about wild stories. And sometimes it sounds like a movie, but you got to nail it down. I mean, part of what we have to do is prove it.
How hard is it and Cherri, I'm reflecting back on what you said, you have to just share the facts and, try to be objective, even though you have your own biases. How hard is it when you are in a position where you want to show emotion, and do you feel flexible to do that? Jenice, I have a feeling that in your columns you'll have a different perspective. But Cherri, I'm very curious.
Well, I will tell you this, and I went live during the riots here in Philadelphia. I was not working that day. I was called in. I literally had 2 sips of my wine on a Saturday. And I was like, I think everything's good with these protests on the art museum. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. And so I had to drink some water, get myself out there. And what I witnessed was very crazy. And I went live on Facebook in between my radio live shots for KYW. And what I was seeing, I was just as authentic and honest as I could be. Because what I see us as being as witnesses in a lot of ways. We bear witness while Black. We happen to be Black, but we are still witnesses. And one of the reasons why they hired myself, why they have Jenice in there, why they have Elizabeth, Wellington, why they have, Justin Udo, our station, is because we do see things a little bit differently. And the next day in West Philadelphia, watching a Black neighborhood literally burn in front of my eyes, it hits you a little bit different when you Black and it's your neighborhood. I'm not from West Philly, but I grew up in Northeast Washington, D.C. Jenice is also a D.C. girl.
Northeast too.
Shout out to Lorraine Ballamoro, who's also from D.C. and Joyce too. A lot of us from D.C. But so we know we've seen neighborhoods like that, and to watch it burn and to watch what was happening hit us different. It hit us different, and so I'm going to report on it from that perspective. But Jen, it's still going to be facts. It's still going to be accurate. I'm going to talk to the police, but guess what? I'm going to knock and talk to Miss Jones too. And I'm going to talk to, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to talk to Tyrone on the corner. And I'm going to talk to Keisha, down the street too. Sometimes those are the people who get ignored. But because I'm familiar with the people in that neighborhood, I'm not just going to get one perspective. And they'll talk to me. And they'll talk to me too, because they know, they like, sis, what's going on? They see the mic and they see that, because I had to put the full outfit on. That was one of them days where you wear the outfit, because you don't want nobody to be throwing, because I got tear gas. And witnessed a man getting rubber bullets on him. He was bleeding everywhere. So these are the type of things that I saw up close, and my Blackness was still in me. I was just a witness, and I brought the facts. I ain't lie. Y'all saw it.
I was watching. You did a great job. And can I add something? Cherri went where a lot of other journalists didn't feel comfortable going. They were afraid. She was there by herself on the street. Sometimes she'd say, okay, I gotta go. And then next thing you know, she'd pop back on. Because I was watching her. I was with you that whole weekend. Yes, the whole weekend. Whereas you walked around. She was able to go, because she's not afraid of Black people per se, she was able to go in these neighborhoods and get the kind of stories and interviews that other reporters felt more intimidated about. So I thought that was important to point out.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. It's just a whole different perspective. Like you said, when you were out there and looking and interviewing the people, other newscasts noticed that they were from far away. They were from a distance. They're on top of the truck. And, and of course, they've already have a preconception of what was taking place. So you're just getting their view and their opinion without actually talking to people on the ground and saying, here's people in the community, here's what's really going on. So right there, it's just a whole different perspective of Black media and having someone who's Black in the community.
Yes, Cherri went in. Yes. They stood back. She went for it by herself. And it was scary.
My mama wasn't happy.
You did a heck of a job that weekend. You really did. Think about it. A lot of entrepreneurs are busy doing their businesses. They got their families, they got their lives. Sometimes they don't have time to become students of the media. I suggest they hire like some of these small public relations firms to do their pitches for them. That way you have an expert who knows who is where. Yes, he knows who does what and what kind of stories they're interested in. And they can do probably a better job than you in pitching your story. So look for a small public relations firm. Look for a public relations person who might just work individually. There are lots of great ones in Philadelphia. You can kind of find one by word of mouth and have them do the work for you. It doesn't cost as much as you think. And also learn what you want. Because a lot of times people ask me to write something and then they're like, ask me, how much does it pay? How much do you charge for this? And I have to explain the difference between something that appears in editorial versus an ad. Don't forget, you can always take out an ad. Because with an ad, you can say basically anything you want. And it doesn't cost as much as you think. you know, you think it costs an awful lot of money, but it really doesn't, especially in times like this. So think about advertising, taking out an ad, and working with a small public relations firm or a public relations, somebody who really understands the media, and they can help you get your name and business out there.
And as you said, it's money well spent, and even not necessarily small businesses, but when times get tough, one of the first things that gets cut usually is the communications budget, the outreach budget, and it's absolutely the worst time to actually cut your communications and your outreach budget. You know, when times are tough, that's when you need the promotion. That's when you need to spend money on communications. And like I said, Beech is a little different situation because we are, you know, a nonprofit social enterprise. So we spend money in media basically just support. Like I gave an example about URD. We're running a daily commercial. We're just supporting the time and weather. We are not advertising anything, right? I'm just supporting, you know, promotion of the time and weather. But I know it's tough times, and I want to be supportive of Black radio. So you know, we'll pick up various sponsorships from time to time during the year. But you, as a small business, especially one that's struggling, now is the time that you need the outreach. So as those were excellent things to say, you know, small public relations firm, simple things of, like you said, contacting the media in advance if there is a real legitimate story that you can tie it into something, current events or whatever's going on with those situations. But, you know, it's an important part of business. People don't think of that as business, but that is a very important part of your business is the outreach. How do you get customers?